Hi, I'm John Resig, and I'd like to welcome you to another episode of the yayQuery podcast.
Hey, John, you're supposed to be the guest. You're not the host.
Then why did you put that there?
Well, no, but why don't you just head backstage? We'll call you back when we're ready, and
yeah, go.
We'll see you later, John. Come on. Guys, I just had the most amazing dream.
Adam, you weren't paying attention this whole time?
What? No, guys, I had this dream. John Resig was on yayQuery. It was awesome.
We are
a podcast.
We're recording.
Right now, we're recording the episode?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, shit. What are we talking about?
Well, we're going to talk about the news. So we'll just get into it. How about that?
Okay, fine.
I think first, I think this is something that we need to address. In that, so I found this site. Over on the side was this Flash ad, and I found that Microsoft has an ad for IE8 that uses Charlie the Unicorn and Candy Mountain to talk about, I don't know, somehow that has to do with web security and malware. I'm not really sure.
It's kind of hard to get the message there.
I think we've reached a point where the unicorn has jumped the shark. So I think we and the internet as a whole, I think we need a search for a new mascot.
So this unicorn hat here that I have, what should I do with it?
eBay?
eBay. Okay, for right now, I'm just going to throw it in the back of the room.
That's the thing.
I think that'll work.
Everything ends up on eBay after the floor.
Also, I wanted to say that we're not the only ones in the fight for the deprecation of the unicorn. Amy Hoy, a fantastic designer and sometimes developer, I think.
Definitely.
Interaction design is most of her stuff. She works a lot with Thomas Fuchs. She has unicornfree.com, in which she has a blog post called "I'm Proud to Be Unicorn Free." I'm not going to read it, but it's good and you should read it. It's the wave of the future. So we are taking some ideas on where to go next.
Yeah, I think she makes a really good point on this post about real narwhals are awesomer than fake unicorns.
I'm not sold on narwhals.
You're not?
Well, you guys...
Have you ever seen a narwhal?
Guys, let's move on. Another thing that we recently just saw is that this is really rad. Gmail, you can develop contextual gadgets and sidebar gadgets for Gmail. So, like, if you're familiar with Gmail Labs and these little cool gadgets, whatever, I had no idea that you can actually write these yourself. You can. They actually recommend to write it with jQuery. That was rad. But yeah, definitely check that out if you're a Gmail power user and you want to like tweak things even more.
Another thing that's nifty. That's terrible. Sorry, guys.
You weren't even trying.
No. Just assume that I did a hard transition to require JS 0.11.0 came out. It was released. James Burke of the Dojo project and of Require.js, which is not of Dojo, but probably inspired by that and Common.js. So the new version is pretty nifty. The old one was cool. It does everything the old one does, obviously. There's no backwards compatibility breaks. For the moment, there might be one little thing that you weren't doing before. Anyways, but they added some new features, and I actually got to help suggest some of them, so I feel really connected, and James Burke is really nice for getting these in there. But there is a priority configuration option now, so that means you can tell it which groups to download first or parallel or different things like that. So if you really have to get a certain set of JavaScript first and quickly, you can get that set. There's better JSON-P support, so you can serve it as a dependency. I put in some fixes to make it Caja compliant, so if you need to pass it through Caja, you can do that, but be warned that Caja will complain maybe when you use it.
I think
if you don't use it.
I think Adam's fallen asleep.
Is he?
He's heading back to his.
Oh no.
To his dream. To his dream.
To his dream.
So This week we're proud to have on the yayQuery podcast John Resig, the creator of jQuery.
John, maybe you could give us an idea of something that you worked on that people might know you by.
Yeah, this query thing.
Query.
Is that like for doing database stuff?
Yeah, it's a Java library for doing database
so cool.
SQL lyric. Yeah, it's.
was there another jQuery when you started?
Yeah, back in like 2004-ish, around there was a Java library called jQuery, released by someone at like a university in Toronto, but
you're just like, fuck it, I'm gonna get a higher page rank anyway.
It was the project was dead, and so I was, and it was like 2006. It hadn't been updated in 2 years. So, and I was like, well, it's a dead project, so let's just, sounds like a good name to me. The original name for jQuery was actually JSelect, and I couldn't get a domain for it, so I didn't pick that one.
Okay, so I'm actually wanted to start things off with a question that I wanted to ask at JQCon Boston of last year, which was basically ripped off of Jeff Delaney from the New York Times at Obama's first press conference. So since this is equally historic, I was going to ask you, during these first years that we've had jQuery, what has surprised you the most about jQuery? What has enchanted you the most about jQuery? What has humbled you the most? And what has troubled you the most? You can take them one at a time. Ask Obama himself too.
I would say that overall, working on jQuery has been just incredibly surprising through and through, and it's just been phenomenal. I guess sometimes people ask, like what made you think of chaining and stuff like that, and like, it's really not that exciting. It's just like I just wanted to write some short syntax, and chaining was like a quick hack to do it. It just turned out to be something that was actually kind of useful. But the thing is, though, is that like the library today could not be here if it wasn't for the jQuery team, everyone that's come along and helped, and just a full jQuery community. Like it's just been a fantastic group of people who've just wanted to see this code base, grow and survive. And so like I'm really quite taken aback by it all, and it's amazing. I love it.
It sounds like it answered all 4 questions.
That's how I roll.
How many active contributors are there at this point?
Well, active contributors is pretty low. The core team, we have about 4 or 5 people right now. But the jQuery project is closer to like 20, 23 people around there. Mm-hmm. And that's really important because at least one thing that I've learned is that in order to build a good open source project, you can't just focus on the physical code. In a lot of ways, the code's the easiest thing to do. The hard part is all of the community, the documentation, the structure of the website. The list goes on and on.
And if it validates too.
Yes, it's very important. But yeah, so it's and that's why we have such a big team doing non-jQuery core related things, and it's been very helpful.
We heard recently, I think, that you were invited back to your alma mater, RIT, for some sort of accolade that is given out very rarely. You were in the presence of many people that were decades your elder, I believe, on stage. Yeah. RIT set up a new thing called the Innovation Hall of Fame, and this is the first class, and they inducted me in, which was a huge honor, and especially considering I'm barely out of college at this point. I think they
they want some of my filthy open source money, which definitely does not exist. I think they have they were hitting up the wrong person here. But yeah, it was a huge honor, and I'm glad to be inducted with it. It was really crazy. It was like with like George Eastman, founder of Kodak, and both Bosch and Lohm, Bosch and Lohm, and like, and yeah, it was something else.
Both Bosch and Lohm. So, what's it called? We want to know what's going on with jQuery. You talked a lot about jQuery getting into the mobile space, and that's what you're talking about at TXJS. Plug alert! Oh! So tell us what's going on with jQuery and mobile.
It's not a huge plug if the conference is already sold out, right?
It is, but we can make people want to be there.
Exactly.
Shaming
We're creating
them?
existential longing.
Guilt. But yeah, I've been doing a lot of mobile work over the past months here. And I mean, in actuality, I've been doing mobile work here, or things leading up to our mobile effort for at least a year and a half now. So it's been a huge effort on our end, and it's something I'm really, really excited about.
So yeah, one of the things you're working on getting jQuery basically to work on a bunch of different mobile devices, and the devices that you've targeted cover a pretty broad swath, including BlackBerry, or some BlackBerry devices, right, which are pretty notorious for having real shit JavaScript support, right? But I haven't been seeing check-ins to the Git repository. You're keeping the work, the mobile stuff to local changes at the moment?
Not really. Most of the work up until now. So I mean, there has been, I'd say, maybe a half dozen commits related to mobile to core at this point, core and Sizzle. Mm-hmm. But the vast amount of work that goes into this, the vast amount of work I've been working on the past 2 months, has been all research and testing. It is monumentally hard because the problem, the problem I was faced, or I sat down and I was like, all right, I want to make sure that jQuery core works on mobile phones, and that seems like a reasonable goal. But the problem is like you have to define the problem space. You have to, what mobile phones exist, what are popular, and on those phones, what browsers are actually used, and then breaking down from that, of those browsers, which ones are actually capable of running modern JavaScript code. And no one has answered this question. Like, it is a completely unanswered question. The closest I've seen is some of the research done by PPK of Quirks Mode. Right. And he's looked at the different WebKit browsers and some of the functionality contained in them. But he didn't really go beyond that. Like, WebKit-based browsers are, they're the top of the litter. It's supporting them isn't really an issue. It's all the other browsers that are really popular.
So what sort of data do you have about, and are there sources for data about what mobile browsers exist and what mobile platforms exist? What are you sort of working from to figure this out?
So unfortunately, the data is incredibly poor, phenomenally poor, because companies aren't releasing this information because it is considered to be something of a trade secret. Like, for example, Google and Yahoo are not making this information publicly available because they know that they can use this information to get the leg up to make their mobile experience better. And so with that in mind, we're starting to get some sources now of information. One company, AdMob, runs a mobile advertising platform, and they have some information. They didn't have some of they tend to be highly biased towards iPhone devices and Android. especially there seemed to be a much more U.S.-centric company. But I've been working with them, and I've been chatting with them, and they've been giving me additional stats that they don't have on their website about different platforms and their popularity, which has been very, very helpful. There's also was it Site Counter? Yeah, Site Counter. Right. And they provide some mobile browser statistics, but they don't provide the versions of the browsers that are popular. They just say, like, Opera is popular on mobile phones. And you're like, well, that's meaningless to me. And because not only do you not have the version, but you don't have which type of Opera mobile browser.
Right.
There's Opera Mobile and there's Opera Mini. And so you just know that Opera is popular, and that means nothing. So like I said, like the situation we're in now is just very, very dire. And I can't emphasize this. Like I'm going through this, and I'm trying to simply understand, like from my perspective, what we should support. And I look at this, and I completely understand why developers only target the iPhone. And that's because they have no idea what else exists. And even what else exists, like, how do I test on those devices? Where do I find the ways to test it? And it's baffling. It's completely baffling.
You mentioned, I remember you showed at jQuery this gigantic pile of phones and chargers that you said was on your desk. Can you produce those phones now?
Yeah. Give me 1 second.
Yeah, just dangle them on up there.
I've got 4 within my reach here. 2 different versions of iPhones.
I have
a Nokia E71, a Palm Pre.
You have the 4G.
I have a Droid. Right? Just a Droid. That's all I have.
What version of the OS?
Oh, I have no idea.
wait. So if that's a regular Droid, I think that's 1.5.
I don't even know how to find out. I'm a terrible person. I just wanted to show my phone. That's all.
But this is an interesting point, though, is that, for example, Android, they're up to version 2.1. They're working on 2.2 of the Android operating system now. Currently, there's only one browser released for it, which is the default built-in browser. Both Opera and Mozilla are working on browsers to go onto Android. But the thing is, though, is that, so 2.1 is the current release, but 2.1 only has about 25-30% market share. 1.5 and 1.6 both have another 30% market share or so. And it's because of the mobile carriers. They aren't letting people upgrade their operating system.
Interesting.
And so like Droid was one of the first ones, and one of the first Android devices, and everyone who has it isn't able to upgrade. Whereas people who have like a Nexus 1, if I remember correctly, have 2.1 installed. So it's really interesting. We're having this weird fracturing here of operating systems, and we're seeing it as well to a lesser degree in like iPhone, for example. There's still a good chunk of the population that's on the iPhone 2.2 operating system.
So is this like worse than the IE6 problem?
Oh, it's so much worse. Oh my God, it is so much worse. I
imagine though it would turn over a lot faster. It's almost like...
No, you would think so. You would think people would want to stop using these really bad browsers. But
if their carrier won't let them, then they can't.
Right. So iPhone, Android, Palm Pre, you should. It's nothing. Like as far as the amount of work that you'll have to do to support them, it's relatively nothing. But the thing is that the most popular mobile operating system is none of those. They're not even. They're way lower. The most popular is Symbian, and that's the one that Nokia uses. Symbian has a couple different operating systems. The most popular of which is called the S60, and S60 has multiple versions of that operating system. There's 5.0, the current. There's version 3 with different service packs. The service packs dramatically change the actual browser and everything. And then there's even older versions like 2 and 1, which are crazy in itself.
And isn't Symbian then you get into international concerns? Like Symbian isn't super popular in the U.S., I think, but exactly. It's way more popular in the EU.
Well, so on when I was saying that Symbian was popular, I was saying that in the international metrics, it has something like 44% market share, and then. But the thing is that a lot of people replace those browsers with the built-in browser with different browsers, and they're usually replacing it with Opera. Opera is the most popular mobile browser by far. But the problem is that most of that is Opera Mini, and Opera Mini is a terrible, terrible browser.
It's not a browser, right?
It's not a browser. It's like a glorified bitmap viewer. That's the best way to describe it. What you do is you say, you tell Opera Mini, like, give me Facebook, and it goes and contacts the Opera Mini servers, and I assume Norway, and gets the web page. So in this, there's no security whatsoever happening here. Gets the page, and turns it into the Opera markup language, OBML, I think it is, sends it back to the device, renders it in its magical way, and the thing is that there's actually no JavaScript running on the device whatsoever, which is why they were able to get Opera Mini on the iPhone, because they skirted around the whole issue of having an executable environment, which is one thing that Apple bans.
Right.
So the thing is that Opera Mini, when they first load that page, they run JavaScript for 2 seconds. If it's still running, they stop it, and then they send whatever is there to the device. And then they do. They only have, from that point on, you have on change, on submit, on click, and I think on focus. And that's only if you attach them via inline handlers. And then so like, for example, if you trigger an on submit on the device, it does a server or on submit or on change or on focus. It does a full server request again, tells the server an on focus just happened here, re-renders the whole page and sends it back to the device.
So with this sort of challenging environment, going back to jQuery, how is jQuery planning on addressing this horribleness?
Yeah,
we're not.
Are you planning to support Opera Mini?
No.
No.
There's really no way to for a JavaScript library.
There's no way.
That doesn't run JavaScript.
So what I've devised as sort of jQuery's overall strategy is that I've constructed a grid of it's sort of the graded browser support, the same sort of thing you see that Yahoo publishes.
Right.
Yahoo's grid is like 4 by 4 or something like that. The different browsers by the different platforms.
Sure.
The mobile grid that I've constructed is about 20 by 20. It's pure chaos. And I've graded the browsers on different levels. A grade is it's beautiful. It doesn't matter at all. It's a dream to support.
Which is basically WebKit Mobile?
Exactly. So A grade, I have the built-in browser for WebOS, so Palm, all the Android browsers, the BlackBerry 6.0 browser, the Symbian S60 version 5 browser, and then the iPhone OS current browser, and then PhoneGap, and Fennec, Firefox Mobile for Android. So those are the A grade. Oh, and Opera Mobile 10, sorry. So essentially just supporting the A grade more than doubles our coverage of browsers. But then I break it down further. I have a B grade, a C grade, then F. So at least for jQuery, we're going to be supporting both A and B grades, which includes BlackBerry support from 4.6 and newer, Windows Mobile support, Symbian S60 version 3.2 support, and Opera Mobile 9.5 support. So it's dramatically increasing the coverage of browsers that we'll be able to target. And so yeah, this is something that I'm pretty excited about. But at the same time, for example, Opera Mini, I give it a C grade. So it's capable of rendering a web page, but there's no way we can support it. So we're going to provide a way to fall back gracefully. So some sort of detection that we'll do to let you know that this isn't a platform that can be supported.
Back in Boston at the jQuery conference in Boston in 2009, you had sort of announced a different strategy and different direction for jQuery as far as mobile. And I'm curious, what changed? What about your understanding of the mobile space changed your approach to how jQuery was going to deal with mobile?
So I talked a lot with different mobile manufacturers and browser developers, and my original idea was to go in and break jQuery down into little bitty pieces, and then we would dynamically load the parts that we needed live as we needed them. But that turned out to be a very bad idea because what happens is that for each one of those parts you load, you're doing a network request. And if there's one thing that devices hate, it's doing a network request.
Right.
Because not only do you have the issue here of wasting CPU, but you also have the issue of wasting battery. And every network request you do is wasting more and more battery, excessively so. So you really have the best way to get a block of code is the same exact way as it is on the desktop, which is, or at least the optimal way, which is to send a single file down, and you have the initial pain of loading, but at least you won't be dealing with the additional network requests. The technique that the Gmail team uses, where they send blocks of code in comments and script blocks, that's a great technique. I don't think we provide any techniques to handle that explicitly, other than we'll provide lots and lots of documentation on how to do that technique, and so that you can make your mobile applications faster in that regard. So at least since last September, my thoughts regarding mobile have changed in that regard, and that we should still be shipping the one jQuery file. There's not going to be a jQuery.mobile or something like that with a stripped down build or whatever. It's going to be your one copy of jQuery. You will use it. You can use it on your applications, and it'll not only will it work on all your desktop browsers, but it'll work on all your mobile browsers as well, and we can guarantee that.
Yeah.
Well, you know what's not working right now is my computer. So I'm going to let you guys handle this for like 2 minutes or so, and I'm going to hop out. Take it easy.
Oh boy. Thank you. So I guess in addition to jQuery and Sizzle, that will now be compliant on all these devices, QUnit probably will as well.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
So we have to make QUnit compliant, because that's the way in which we're testing to make sure that what we're doing actually works. So we load up test form on the device, and we're able to push the jQuery test suite out to the device, run it, and then collect the results back. The one thing that really confused me is that when I first sat down, I tried to understand all the different use cases that people were using, that were doing mobile development for. There's the use case of people wanting their current website to work on mobile devices. And I think that is the largest use case right now, and is completely underserved. No JavaScript library at all, or I should say no major JavaScript library, guarantees support for anything beyond desktop browsers.
Wow.
And I think this is something that we can really move and work to support. There's the other use case, though, which is people building mobile-specific websites. So like a website which may run on an iPhone or Android or something, using maybe features specific to those devices. And that's all well and good.
And so that's something that like JQ Touch, for instance, has been designed to really attack that kind of like market, right?
Correct. So JQ Touch sits on top of jQuery and includes a bunch of CSS and specific methods and properties for dealing with pretty much with iPhone, a little bit of Android as well, and a little bit of Palm Pre. So it's pretty much for trying to build web pages that look a lot like native iPhone applications. So and that's pretty much its exclusive goal. So if you're on an Android device, it's still going to look like an iPhone application, for example. It's a very narrow goal, targeting these devices. We should be trying for much more. We should be trying to target more devices.
So is there a goal to come up with a common library and a common UI library, especially that will work across the different mobile browsers?
Yes. So I think this is of paramount importance to have a UI library that is cross-platform and provides a consistent feature set for mobile devices. Listen, we won't be able to guarantee things like, let's say, geolocation across platforms because not all platforms provide it. But we will be able to guarantee some level of building a good user interface for mobile devices, and hopefully something that you could use both on a mobile device and on a desktop as well. The problem is because right now everyone is building applications that look like iPhone applications.
Right.
And this is absolutely stifling the mobile web development industry. Because if everyone wants to build something that looks like an iPhone app, and the users are just getting things that look like iPhone apps, then why are they using it on their Palm? Why are they using it on their Android? Why aren't they just using it on their iPhone? So I mean, it's a very frustrating situation, and I think this is something that we can hopefully step in and help with. Shipping a good user interface, a good set of interaction design that users can apply to the applications, and it's something that transcends just the iPhone.
So how does this relate to jQuery UI? Is it going to use the same underpinnings as jQuery UI, or is this sort of a separate project?
I think they're absolutely related. It's going to be, I think, the scope of the user interface tools, let's call them, for mobile devices will be much, much smaller to start. We kind of have to work from the bottom up because at least when you're doing a desktop application, let's call it, a desktop web app, you are already starting with a website. And you're adding things in. You're adding in a calendar. You're adding in a grid. You're adding in tabs. You already know the goal you want to achieve. That's because desktop web design, desktop user interface design is very well understood at this point. Mobile web design is not understood at all. How should things look on a device screen that's no wider than 300 pixels? Like, no one has really thought about, like, what does a grid look like on a mobile device? Do grids make sense on a mobile device? Do tabs make sense on a mobile device? And the interaction is so limited. You don't have a mouse cursor. You're lucky if you even have a device that can handle touch interaction. So it's just I think we're just being very short-sighted right now, and people are just kind of jumping for what seems to make sense, which is the iPhone. It's like building, like people don't, and they shouldn't only build websites for, let's say, Chrome. All right, you need to do cross-browser development. And people aren't treating mobile web development that way. They're just treating it as a one-platform thing and walking away, which is silly.
So are we talking about user agent sniffing in order to get these different UIs rendered on different mobile devices?
It's not clear yet. I sure hope not. I mean,
there's so much that is in media queries that helps out with a lot of this, but I guess it remains to be seen if media queries and those other like assistive things will like tackle everything, right?
Yeah. So the worst browsers we're going to support are Windows Mobile 6.5, which is equivalent to IE6, which we already support. BlackBerry 4.6, which is I want to say roughly equivalent to, let's say, Safari 2-ish, even though it isn't WebKit. and Symbian S60 version 3 Service Pack 2, which is Safari 2. Pretty much directly equivalent. It's equivalent to like Safari 2.01. And so those are the worst browsers these are the worst browsers that we're going to be supporting in the mobile work we do. So I think we're going to be okay. IE6 is a known evil that we can deal with. Safari 2 we've dealt with in the past. We can deal with it again. And so yeah, I don't think we will have to deal with UA sniffing. But I mean, obviously we aren't far enough along yet to speak one way or another.
Yeah. Well, this is enormous. I mean, this is huge, and like having a project that basically codifies what are the best practices for a mobile web application across devices is something that everyone wants, and having it available under the guise of the jQuery project, I think is huge news. So I'm really, really excited about this. This is great.
Woo! Cool. Glad to hear it.
Woo!
Yeah, totally.
There goes the cat to my marker. I'm so happy.
What?
No, not the
So
cat.
happy I needed to destroy this marker.
Sorry we lost you for a moment, Adam. What happened?
I don't know. Everything stopped. And it was the flash forward, I think. Got to talk to my roommate, though.
All right.
You
Anyway.
left us to talk to your roommate. That's
No,
what you mean.
I left you guys to get more beer.
Oh.
Always approved.
So,
So what should we ask John next now that we have him on the podcast?
hit enhancements! What? Guys, hit enhancements!
Hit enhancement?
Hit enhancement.
What's a hit enhancement?
They're hidden enhancements. What? They're little tiny things you never thought you'd see.
You guys out there know, I was in the jQuery channel the other night and someone was like, hey, how can I find out if an element is still in the body? And I was like, well, you can use element closest body dot length. And then the mysterious and amazing Tempo1 corrected me and said, you can use $ contains element 2. So yeah, contains comes from Sizzle, but it's exposed as jQuery.contains, and it's way, way faster than doing element closest body to determine if something's actually still in the DOM, but it's also can be used to compare any two elements. It uses compare document position in most browsers. It uses contains in IE, but it's really convenient and really fast and answers a common question.
Yeah, so the way that you typically use it is jQuery.contains document body, comma, some element, right?
Thing that you care
And
about.
that's it.
The actual element object, not
The
I was
element
just going to
object,
ask, so
correct.
it's actual element objects, not a jQuery
Not a
object.
jQuery, not a selector. It has to be actual element references.
Yes,
But it's
So-
fast, so it's worth it.
Yeah, it's way faster.
totally.
And I think almost a little bit more succinct.
Succinct?
Succinct.
I dig it.
sexy.
All right. Alex, why don't you tell us about some plugins?
All right, I'm going to tell you about our plugin of the week. Let's not get excited about no.
No?
Okay. This week's plugin of the week is not Zoomoose, but we wanted to talk
Why?
about it very briefly.
Yeah.
We'll have a link to Zoomoose. It's nifty. We think maybe it shouldn't stop you from scrolling on the document. But that's all I'll say about it. Check out Zoomoose. It's cool looking.
A hidden feature of it is it actually can transition to different polygon shapes that are all twisted, and it's really rad. Check it out.
It's nifty. It's certainly cool,
Yeah.
but not our plugin of the week.
Nope.
Our plugin of the week is called Autonumeric. It is on decorplanet.com/plugin, and it's cool. So I get this question quite a bit in jQuery, and even some people I see doing a lot of numeric formatting and things like that, trying to write their own stuff or searching for different random JavaScripts on the internet. This one's really nifty because you kind of add it in, it syncs up with metadata, it can do internationalization, it can round up and down and ceilings and floors and asymmetrics and all that stuff.
Yeah, I didn't know that rounding, there were this many ways to round.
And apparently, round half down, symmetrical, and asymmetric.
Wow.
There's and that's just one of them. Yeah. So there's only two public functions that it exposes, and then there's some sub functions that it uses. Does positives and negatives. It works in IE, Firefox, Chrome, and Safari. Digital Bush helped with that. He's a yayQuery watcher, so props, Digital Bush. Not the creator of the plugin. But yeah, it's really awesome. I think this is a great plugin to use whenever you want to be nice with numbers.
The administrator of Decor Planet is Bob Noth. So good job, Bob.
Good job, Bob.
Great work.
Guys, I think this is good. You know, we wanted to put in the anti-pattern for performance of the week, but I think we'll have to save it till next time because we packed this with enough good stuff.
All right. That's okay.
Adam's stream just went on way too long.
Oh, yeah. Totally. Thanks, Adam. Jeez.
You'll have to tell us about that dream sometime.
I was just really snoozily.
That's okay. We'd like to wrap it up. Thank you for our sponsors, Devotee, TinyCDN. You guys rock. Come back next week.
Yeah. Awesome. Peace out.
All right. Bye.